we've been around a long time as a managed service provider to larger organizations. We became a Microsoft Gold ISV partner, and during that time developed our own monitoring platform. And then we ended up really focusing our efforts on developing and marketing tools specifically for the IT service provider community. And these tools include our Proactive Watch monitoring software, and of course the Rapid Fire Tool Suite that includes Network Detective that we're going to kind of talk about a little bit later today. The Network Detective platform is comprised of 3, and soon to be 4, distinct modules that can be purchased separately or together as a bundle depending on your business needs. And literally we've got several thousand extremely happy users of Network Assessment module that we've been selling for multiple years. And we also offer a special security assessment module that, as you'll see, service providers like yourselves use in conjunction with the network module to help identify areas of risk when prospecting to win new business. But also it's a great way to deliver new security service to new and existing clients. And we've got the Exchange module where you can get details you need to document and prospect clients and their Exchange environments. It's useful for identifying new projects and to document and analyze your customer's Exchange. And of course it's great to scope migrations, running it before or after. In just a few minutes we'll take a look at what it looks like to run that tool. So a little bit about network assessments. We all do them, right? As service providers we've got to. Because unless you're looking for problems later on, you really can't properly provide a quotation to a prospective customer unless you know about their business, how they're using IT in their business, and of course the technical makeup of their current systems and their network. You really need to know what you're going to be supporting, right? I mean, how many workstations are active, what type of applications they're running, the makeup of those PCs. Are they new? Are they old? What's the operating system? Is it XP getting near end of life? How much RAM do they have? Because all of this will give you an idea of the types of issues you're likely to encounter and how needy that organization will be. And of course you need to know about the servers, printers, and network devices that you'll be supporting. And then with an Active Directory there's a lot more to understand. Is it set up properly? Has it been well maintained? Maybe it's too overly complex for the small client it might be. And then how secure is the network from the outside? So performing a detailed network assessment really is a necessary component to do before you can build that quotation and then onboard that customer. Now, one of the things that you'll notice, and I hope you've done this, if you'll Google your competition, is that a lot of them offer free network audits or free network assessments. How obvious is that? I mean, is there a better way to entice a prospect? You're offering them a free, valuable service. While at the same time, you get to take a look under the hood, see what's wrong in the network, so that you can highlight your proposal against those issues and really sell against it. And you would need to do some level of assessment anyway to quote the opportunity, so it's really just too perfect. But network assessments are useful for more than just prospecting and onboarding new clients. You might also perform assessments prior to engagements, whether these are new or existing customers, to eliminate any unwanted surprises. And more importantly, you can run it afterwards to document the before and after results of your work. Get you paid faster that way. You can also provide a regular health check network assessment for all of your customers. I'd say more than 80% of our subscribers do that. That way you can make sure you aren't supporting systems that might have been added without your knowledge, right? Or that you're not being paid to support. Uncover issues that need fixing and identify and document areas where you can sell new projects to them. I spoke with one of our customers recently who ran a report against a large network, happened to be a school system. They found over 700 old accounts with logins still active. It was a huge security risk and something their on-site IT was supposed to have handled. And then what about security assessments? Far too many service providers I talk to don't do these because they lack the detailed expertise and they don't want the expense of hiring experts. But your clients deserve to know that their business network and their data is protected both inside and out, and they'll pay for this service. And that's whether you're selling these as a one-off, or as I speak with a lot of folks who use our software, they develop a managed security service and generate some recurring revenues. A terrific thing. The critical thing here, though, is that you need a way of performing these assessments quickly and easily, so that you're not bogged down in time-consuming and expensive data collection, and of course, then building the deliverable reports. So I'm often asked whether or not you should charge for a network assessment as a door opener. And a recent poll asked this very question. As you can see, about a third of them said you should offer these for free, while 2/3 felt you should charge something for your assessment. And one of the respondents said they're doing a full paid assessment. It was like over $25,000 or something. But that included, extensive executive interviews, email surveys, and a lot of other tasks. But they went on to say that they also offer free assessments to introduce their services, and that they would do a lot more if they had better tools so that they could do it faster and more cheaply. One of our customers told me he based a good portion of a $10,000 network assessment primarily on the detailed output from Network Detective. He was thrilled. Of course, what you can charge is going to vary on the size of the organization, the business that they're in, your market, and the competition. So free or paid. With Network Detective, as you'll see, you can really do both. I think it's a great idea to do a network assessment as part of a marketing offer to generate new business. But you need a deliverable that doesn't cost a lot of time to create and doesn't give away the farm. And you'll see the Network Detective tool includes what we call client risk reports. And these are executive summaries of the findings. And they don't really give away any of the specific details. It's a terrific deliverable for a free or discounted assessment. But then you get a highly detailed report with hundreds of pages of network details that, when combined with your analysis and discovery, really can and should be sold. One thing, though, that I can tell you for certain, based on the survey and my speaking with folks like yourselves, whether or not people are charging for them, whether they're being used for prospecting, converting one-time project clients to recurring services, or for ongoing customer checkups, the vast majority of IT providers are regularly performing assessments. And everybody I talk to says they would do more if it were quicker and less costly to perform. And that's where Network Detective comes in as a way to perform these assessments faster with less costly resources to still produce really professional reports to help you win business. Now, by performing regular security health checks, you really can help your clients protect their assets, guard against downtime, and help them sleep better at night. And the key here is regular. Running security assessment once and addressing the first set of issues you uncover, that's just the first step. Consider networks are always changing. What was secure yesterday might be exploitable or have vulnerabilities today. New machines and devices might be added to the network without your knowledge. Sometimes, brought in from home. And, of course, this is all about bring your own device. And users should have their access rights regularly verified and documented to reduce the risk of unauthorized access. Additionally, when a new user joins the company or an existing user changes roles, there ought to be a verification process that you can do with the stakeholder, your client, to ensure that the proper permissions are set and to document that. And of course, Active Directory can be very complex. A seemingly small or innocuous change to group policy can have very subtle inheritance. And that can give users access to network shares and data that they really shouldn't have access to. Do the salespeople really need access to the company payroll? As mentioned before, solid documentation is critical to show who had access to what at any given point in time. So why are so few SPs providing security assessments? Typically it's because they don't have and can't afford to hire expensive security experts. But that does change with the Network Detective security module. And we've got a lot of our customers using this to sell regular security checkups to their clients, typically on a quarterly basis. I see pricing from $199, $299 per quarter and up. So just a single customer can pay for this module immediately. So allow me to give you a brief description of performing network assessments with Network Detective. It's specifically designed so that you can run a data collector on your prospect or client network without installing any software. And that's key. That way it's completely non-invasive. There's no registry changes, nothing at all is installed. And it works very quickly. Network scans can run in as little as, 20, 30, 40 minutes for smaller networks. We have a data collector that gathers the data. It produces a zip file you bring back to your office, import that into the Network Detective tool, and that's where you set up the branding, your logos, and then generate the reports. It's really easy to do. When I talk to salespeople all the time who go on site, run the data collector during their introductory meeting with the potential customer. It gathers the data while they're running through their interview, and of course building rapport with the prospect. So this is really important, and I'm often asked why I would need network assessment tools when I have Kaseya or Enable or some other monitoring system. So sure, you can install a bunch of licenses or even put a probe out there for a week or two. But what does that cost in terms of licenses, let alone your time and effort? What happens when in a prospecting situation something goes wrong? Or if you don't win the deal, you've got to go back out and uninstall that probe or uninstall those agents. So seriously, if you go in and install some software on a network and something does go wrong later that day or the next, who are they going to blame? Themselves? No, they're most likely going to blame you. You were the last in the network. You might even get a chance to go back in, fix that problem for free, and kiss that opportunity goodbye. So as I mentioned, Network Detective is completely non-invasive. You run the data collector without installing anything. You bring the data file back to generate reports. On the flip side, though, Network Detective is not going to get you performance-based metrics and statistics. Your monitoring system, especially agent-based systems like Kaseya or Enable, they're running for weeks or longer and should be providing detailed performance reports. That's not normally appropriate for prospecting situations. However, there's still good reason to run Network Detective on your existing clients where you do have a monitoring running. And that's typically because these programs don't perform any real ongoing analysis of Active Directory, nor do they perform external vulnerability scans, nor do they regularly look for open ports on an IP scan across the entire network looking for potential security holes. They also don't provide professional documentation on things like network shares, who has access to what, security policies. And that's where Network Detective comes in. Running it regularly will do all of that for you. And with our change report, you can quickly identify systems you might not be charging for in your managed services. So I hope I've given you a few things to think about, why network and security assessment should be a key component of your prospecting and onboarding clients, as well as regular health checks, and of course how you can use them regularly in your practice. So at this point, let me talk a little bit, or kind of show you how this works. We'll show everything from start to finish, including the external vulnerability scan, all the way through generating the reports. And after that, I'm going to go through some of the reports and show you how you can use those to open doors and win business. So we found that your average, let's say, 4 or 5 server, 50 to 60 workstation environment, it's going to take maybe 30 to 45 minutes, and that's everything start to finish. The entire process is extremely straightforward and broken into just a few simple steps. So first off, let's say the day ahead of going out to your client, you'll initiate the external vulnerability scan so that it can do its thing and the data is ready when you get back. Next, you're going to be at the client site. That's where you're going to run the Network Detective data collector from the domain controller of your client or prospect's network. You can either download it and run it. Again, it's non-invasive. Or you can run it from a thumb drive. It's completely wizard-driven, very fast. I'm going to show you that in a minute. If you do need to do the security or other local data collection for Macs or a few other things, you can do that at the same time that the network data collector is running. We recommend prepping a second thumb drive, and those collections per machine take you 30 to 40 seconds. It's terribly quick. Finally, you bring all that information back, import it into the tool, set up the branding, and run the reports. And that's it. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Again, everything is wizard-driven, designed to be extremely easy. You'll initiate the external vulnerability scan from the Network Detective tool before you go on site. Simply enter the IP range and click Next, and you're done. It'll take a few hours to run, depending upon what's queued in front of you. Next, when you're on site, here's what the data collector looks like. It's a lot of next, next, next. So select the type of scans. In this case, we're looking at the network and security. Check your credentials. Next, your local domains. If you need to, we can do a who is an MX record lookup, so put in the 1 or more customer domains here. We'll do that automatically for you. And then you'll set up the IP range that you want us to scan. So you can either edit what we pick up automatically, and if you do need to scan other subnets, you can enter them here. It's very quick and easy. SNMP, read community string, optionally run the MBSA, user control tests, and at this point, verify and run. So at that point, you're done. You can now walk around and do your selling while talking to the stakeholder or owner and do any local collections if necessary. That whole start to finish shouldn't take you 2 or 3 minutes. So let me talk a little bit about a feature we have called Inform. It allows you to create your own IT checklists, questionnaires, and surveys so that you can gather information that no automated data collector can gather. Like what, you might ask? Things like the status of the server room. Is it locked? Is it secure? What's the temperature? What does the cabling look like? Document the phone system and fax. find out if they have a process or document the process like BOD and get their line of business applications. You can use rather our built-in template as is, or modify it, or you can even create your own from scratch if you've got your own checklists. And this is pretty cool. You can identify items to be in an IT SWOT report and show those automatically. And then your output here is the information that you'll transcribe in, along with pictures of what the cabling might look like. And here's a sample of what the SWOT report looks like. Really raises you from just an IT consultant into a business and IT consultant. It's terribly powerful. Finally, when you bring the data back, setting up the branding and generating reports, you'll set up your defaults one time. And of course, you can override them each time you run it. Enter who the report's prepared for. First time you run it, you'll input your logo for both the cover pages and the header. Choose a layout and any colors, which you can even custom define or use your own palettes. And from a variety of built-in cover images by industry, automotive, legal, hospitality, retail, etc., or upload your own. This way you can completely customize the reports, make them from you to your customers, click generate, and you're done. Very easy to do. So now let me talk just a little bit about some of the ways to use these reports. So the first of which, as I talked about before, is sort of lead generation, which gets you in front of the customer, and also pre-engagement, where you do an assessment and then present the findings to them in an attempt to win their business. They'll get a crystal clear picture as to the service they're getting today, and they'll either sleep better knowing that they're where they need to be, or as is more often the case, there'll be a list of things that you can highlight and sell against in an attempt to win their business. So in going through the reports, you'll more than likely notice, a bunch of shortcomings with their current provider and current situation. Are simple problems being overlooked? Are they experiencing system issues or viruses? All this really speaks to the quality of the provider. In general, old machines in Active Directory, old user accounts, missing antivirus, missing patches, etc., can all be used to sum up one point, and that is that their current provider is not doing a very good job, with the inference, of course, that you can do a better job, and you can show them this with this level of reports. So let's take a look at the users and patching section. So what we're looking at here in the users, and you'll notice, and by the way, these are just pieces of sample reports which are on our website that you can view at your leisure. All of this, so let me back up. Any of the items in red, these are potential areas of risk that you should pay attention to, which can often be things that you can sell against. So red is great for selling against. So here we're looking at the user section. These in red are users who haven't logged in the last 30 days. And so these are people with active accounts that could be logged in, a huge security risk for the network. And also, we'll take a look here, we can see that the password is set to never expire. Then in the patching section, again, we're looking at all of the missing patches, summarizing them for you. So 21 security updates are missing. So we look for things like Windows security updates, developer tools, SQL Server updates, etc. And by taking a look and showing these reports to your customers, you can really show them potential holes in the network. So another potential problem is exposure to risk. As I mentioned, viruses are a risk that comes with not properly maintaining a network. Infected machines can be compromised, of course. As I showed you, old user accounts can still get in the system and access potentially sensitive data. So there's a ton of risks that could be present, and these will all vary. But let's take a quick look at antivirus and external vulnerabilities out of, if I can hit this right, out of our tool. So first, looking at endpoint security and backup, what we can see here is that a lot of machines lack antivirus and lack spyware or anti-spyware, and also we've got a number of different products in use here. So it's an opportunity for you here to demonstrate that things could be better handled, better centralized, and much better managed. And then looking at the external vulnerability report, there's some summary information, but then we can drill down into a specific IP and take a look, and you can see here that there are specific vulnerabilities along with details. Now these are often easily fixed, but again, it's great to bring this to their attention that things aren't as good as they could be. So another way to use assessments is for onboarding. You've already got them lined up to come on board, but how can you speed up the process and increase the accuracy of getting them on board? And of course, it's a new customer, right? So you want to get everything documented in whatever PSA system you're using so that your technicians can hit the ground running from day one and provide the top level of support that your salespeople promise that client. So using Network Detective, you really do have everything you need. The documentation is readily available very quickly and easily referenced. And if you're running this for all of your clients, it's going to be consistent across the board. Your technicians will know exactly where to go to get the information they need very quickly. We also integrate with Autotask and ConnectWise and can populate all of your configuration items. And if you need data in another system, you've got the Excel output, which makes it extremely portable. See if we can take a quick look at that. So each tab here, this is the same information that you're getting in the full detail report, just automated into Excel for you already. A ton of information, Windows, non-AD devices, SQL servers, etc. So you can search, sort, analyze, output information to use into scripts if you'd like. So this ties beautifully to our next point, discovering and selling projects. And again, if this is coming from a prospect, just moving down the line from lead gen to pre-engagement to quoting to remediation is terrific. If it's for a current customer, you're probably going to be making recommendations based on the findings from your regular checkups that I already talked about. Either way, Network Detective is perfect for finding projects. And if you're reselling things like antivirus that you can centralize, it's a great way of documenting how you can do that and make more money there as well. So once you've run the reports, you're in a great spot as you've identified issues. And there's a lot of projects our tools can find. For example, we'll take a look at Exchange migration. Perhaps you're looking for more mobility, or they're small enough where maintaining an on-prem server doesn't make sense anymore and you want to move them to the cloud. So let's pretend we're doing an assessment and want to get them a quote for Office 365. You're going to need to know a lot of information. So what we're taking a look at here is just one of the reports out of the Exchange module, which gives you a ton of detail and information about what's going on for each mailbox, what folders exist, the quotas, and more. So it's great for documenting an Exchange migration, knowing what you're going to be doing. Visit with the prospect ahead of time. There's no sense creating distribution lists that aren't being used anymore. And of course, run it afterwards to document what you've done. Finally, you really should be using these reports for your existing customers. And let's be honest, almost every service provider already has some form of monitoring going. And like I said earlier, they've got great stats on uptime, downtime, RAM utilization, etc. But that's only part of the picture. If you're looking to produce collateral for your account reviews, there's nothing better than Network Detective. Your clients will really be impressed at your attention to detail and the service that you're providing them. These reports are great opportunities to build rapport and trust. And walk through with them and verify things like permissions and things like that. So let me pose a question. How often do you do an assessment of your current customers? Like I said, we're looking at things that monitoring tools don't come close to touching on, like Active Directory, external vulnerabilities, mailbox permissions. Virtually every report can be directly presentable to your customer. It really helps reassure your customer you're providing them with top-tier service. Out of sight, out of mind really does apply. I mean, if your customers aren't seeing consistent value in the services you're providing, why would they keep paying for it? I mean, that's the hard part about doing a great job as an MSP. No problems, you're out of mind. So you really do need to get in front of these folks and show them what you're doing, how well their environment is being maintained, so that they'll keep you as their IT provider. And while you're meeting with your customers, you'll have the chance to build rapport and trust by going through things like I said, permissions, verifying everything as it needs to be. Consider reviewing some of the following. Who has access to what file shares and at what level? Who has access to the HR folder? Who has access to QuickBooks? Which users are members of distribution groups like sales at their domain? Who has access to send emails on behalf of important users like the CEO? So this is a sample of our report from the Share Permissions report. There's two versions of it. There's the Share Permissions and then the Share Permissions by user. The first tells you who has access to, like I said, QuickBooks or the HR share and what the level of permissions are. So a ton of great information here. It's easy to walk through. You'll be able to talk with the stakeholder there and make sure only the right people have access to the right information. Then we've got what we call the change report. It is basically the full detail report that highlights just the changes in the network. It's a much shorter documentation. You run it against a previous baseline, and you'll know exactly what has and hasn't changed from one run to the next. It's a great tool for sitting down and truing up your contracts with your customers. So at this point, I want to turn this over to my friend and colleague, Gil Cargill, CEO and founder of Cargill Consulting Group. Gil, are you with us? Bear with me just a second. Gil, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yep.
Fantastic.
Can you hear me okay?
All yours, sir.
Okay. Thank you all so much for, say again?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We're going to talk about how to use this to get into accounts and make some more money. So let's rock and roll, as we say here in Hollywood. We always miss some deals, primarily because the prospects don't grasp our value. Remember, we are going out and selling to civilians, and I define a civilian as a man or woman who doesn't understand technology nearly as well as you do. Now, I've worked with 5,000 business-to-business sales forces and dozens and dozens of MSPs recently, hundreds since 1978. And the number one reason IT consultants and MSPs lose business that you deserve is because the prospect didn't get a proposal that shows them what it will cost them to not do business with you. Please notice I said not do business with you. You see, we rarely talk about the consequences of the prospect's decision to either postpone moving forward or not moving forward at all. Now, you're looking at a picture of a telephone sales force back in the 1920s, and they didn't need to do what we need to do today because they were selling into a market with no competition. If you are selling into a market with competition, you have to prove your value because all of your good prospects have been served and are being served by someone who is, quote, fixing the computers. So questions that you have to ask your prospects are, what does it cost them to say no or not now? You have to get a network detective series of reports completed, and then you have the unique position to show them if they don't work with you, these problems will continue. Personally, I like the security report because the cost of a bad security on IT infrastructure is huge. And the FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, that you can communicate is equally huge. So you'll have the ability to identify the cost of downtime as well as the value to the customer of their data. The key is to make sure they understand that if they say no, the cost to them will be very substantial and they will have some challenges. Now, I'm going to talk about two kinds of proposals. The one on the top, a selling proposal, is rather rare. Most of the proposals that I've seen since 1978, when I've worked with IT consultants going back to the DOS days, are telling proposals. A telling proposal in the 21st century is the route to take if you want to fail. A selling proposal is the only viable route to take if you want to succeed. Selling proposals illustrate the before and after circumstances associated with your client's company. Now, telling proposals don't communicate the results. They're frequently boilerplate. They aren't backed up by data and specifics like that which you can get from Network Detective. A telling proposal has too much techno talk. Remember, we are selling to civilians. And the problem that many of us have is many of us have a series of template or boilerplate proposals on our drive, and we just drop in a name and print it out. That's a surefire way to lose business. A selling proposal, on the other hand, is needed if you're proposing a major change. So if you're trying to replace a self-managed IT infrastructure, you need a selling proposal. If you're trying to replace an incumbent IT consultant, whether it be an employee or outsource, you need a selling proposal. A selling proposal compares and contrasts the current situation to the proposed situation. It identifies ways in which you're solving problems. And if you recall a moment or two ago, Mark showed you the templates that you can use to provide business consulting services as well as the services of IT consulting. And I think it's very important for us to offer both to our prospects as we move forward. The real value of this approach is you will be able to quantify your impact on the organization. Now, I'd like you to take a look at the proposals you've sent out recently. Do you have in your proposals words like, when the customer makes the buying decision, overtime will be reduced by an estimated X hours per day or per week? Do you have words that talk about how at risk the infrastructure is as it is involved in end-of-life or near end-of-life events? We also should always have a schedule of events, which I'll detail in just a moment, a little bit later in the presentation. You see, I write these proposals, and I teach my clients to write these proposals in my sales training. And by the way, all of you will get, if you'll send me an email, 16 hours of recorded training and workbooks. But I do this to sell. I write these proposals to sell to the invisible decision maker. This is the man or woman who you will never meet, who your contact will go to, and your contact will say, what do you think of the idea of outsourcing the management of my IT infrastructure? Now, if your contact has a telling proposal that's written in Techno-Talk, the invisible decision maker won't understand what you're proposing, and the invisible decision maker tends to say, do the safe thing, and the safe thing is don't change. That's the risk you run if you don't embrace Network Detective's reports and incorporate those into building your proposals. Now, you must use a selling proposal when the prospect is seeking a solution. Now, remember, a solution is not a product. It is not a BDR. It is not somebody's product or appliance. A solution is a written document that explains how a combination of your people, your products, and your procedures will produce valuable, measurable, and permanent improvements on the part of your client's business operations. If you're not producing valuable, measurable, and permanent improvements, then your proposal is a telling proposal. Now, I want you to go look at your existing proposals and answer this question. Are you telling or are you selling? Telling doesn't do the job. And a Network Detective series of reports incorporated into a selling proposal will certainly advance your cause. Now, never do this unless you've got a pre-agreement on the part of your customer that they have a need for the results that you can produce, and the results are produced by your people, products, and your procedures, that they have agreed to review your proposal, and you understand the DMCs. DMC stands for decision-making criteria. Don't confuse this idea with a quote. A quote is for a product. A product doesn't solve a problem, especially when, where, why the situations have come about, and you must identify the current cost. What are the costs of the way they're doing business? Okay, so let's write a proposal. Our proposal, and by the way, in the kit that I'm going to send you are a sample template of what I'm talking about, so we'll move you forward as quickly as possible. We want to quantify the pain. We want to define the results that the customer has already said they're interested in achieving, and we want to monetize those results. So will you allow them to handle more customers, handle more transactions? Will they have more security? Will they be able to avoid breaches? Make sure that you put all of that in writing. Now, my habit is speak my proposals into my digital recorder and then play it back and write my proposal from what I've spoken. That's just the way I communicate. If you can write with your fingers through the keyboard, be my guest. Always make sure you have headlines in your proposal, that you have interrupts where they're appropriate, and again, recognize that this document must become a silent salesperson for you. Make sure that you have handled all of the hurdles, that you have agreement with the customer, that they will change when you show them the results. And make sure you're capable of defending the position you bring them to when you are ready to move forward. Now, the proposal sample in the kit has these components in it. And some people look at this and say, wow, a title page, a cover letter, table of contents, scope, executive summary, company profile, service considerations. Boy, that's a lot of work. Yeah, it is if you're trying to sell one BDR. But if you're trying to get a lifetime relationship, 5, 6, 7 years, at $2,500, $3,000, $5,000 a month, that's not a lot of work. So recognize that I advocate doing this when you are looking at a high potential opportunity. All of these sections are important. The most important are on this slide, and that's the top 3. The current method, how are they maintaining their IT infrastructure today? The proposed method, what you're going to do for them, and compare it. And then you want to show them, as part of the current method, the network detective reports. I want your current method section to say that based on the way your IT infrastructure is currently maintained, you have the following security patches that aren't up to date. You have X number of new machines added. You have bootleg software, and the risk to your company is umpteen $100,000. But put it all in black and white, and then prove what you stated with the network detective reports. The title page is a formal presentation. Remember, you're asking a businessman or woman to trust the health of their company to you, and you want to look like you're trustworthy. The cover letter should be no longer than 3 paragraphs. It should recap the relationship, and it should close with a soft pitch. A soft pitch sounds like this. Mr. Winter, we look forward to adding your company's name to our list of profitable, productive clients. It's a soft pitch. It's not a pitch and a close. Executive summary details why you're working with that prospect. It promises the results, and once again, it's another soft pitch. The table of contents I find to be very useful because it helps a decision maker, visible or invisible, reference information later in the presentation. Now, a watchword or a heads up is never mail these, never email these, always present these and position these as a device to guide a conversation. I always turn my proposal into a document which becomes a sales tool. I never drop it off, I never fax it, I never email it, and I never regular mail it. I always take it back and I sit down with the customer and go through it section by section. The only exception to that rule is when my prospect is geographically distant. Then I will FedEx it the night before he and I will go over it. And when we go over it, I will have it on my screen and we'll use a GoToMeeting. The scope of proposal is the next section, and it substantiates your conclusions, it communicates your research, and it shows the basis for the solution. Obviously, the company profile won't change, so that could be boilerplate. Now, the service considerations have to be detailed because what I want here is what are the consequences to the customer of not using us? Why is your approach better? Focus on those results. How does your service enhance those results? Are they tired of slow computers? Do they have security issues they didn't know about? And remember, most of your prospects don't know what they don't know, even if they have a relationship with one of your competitors. Also, most civilians, and please take note of this, most civilians think that everything's okay if the screens are glowing on all of the PCs. In other words, if they walk around their office and they see that the screens are glowing, they won't assume that there's a problem. Yet I'm willing to bet everyone on this call knows that merely having the screens glow has nothing to do with the security of the system. While the screens are glowing, hackers could be inside of the server stealing credit information, and everyone just notices, boy, it seems like the computer's a little slow today. So make sure you understand all of those differences. Always write your proposals from the what's in it for me point of view. So what? Now we're going to use this to get into doors. And part of the message that you have to broadcast is that, and you have to do this delicately, but you have to help people understand that they don't know what they don't know. And the problem with that is that they rely on computers to run their business, and if the computers aren't running appropriately and correctly, they will be behind the eight ball, and that will cause real severe problems for them moving forward. Be a reporter when you're defining the current method. Here's how it's happening today. Currently, your people have access to areas of the network that are risky. Currently, your security patches aren't up to date, and the risk of that is as follows. Be a reporter. Do not editorialize. Just report the facts. And for those of you that are old enough to remember the old Dragnet TV series, the facts, ma'am, nothing but the facts. That's what Jack Friday used to say. The cost of the status quo should be identified. And then I want in the very next section for you to describe the way things will be after you become their outsourced IT infrastructure management firm. Describe the new conditions, how they'll be able to sell more, sell faster, get information from the field into the office faster, whatever problems you've identified that can be remedied by you. We're basically comparing on a teeter-totter the old method versus the new method. This will help you then segue right into describing what services you'll deliver. Will you be there once a day, once a week? How are you going to work? And detail all of the deliverables. But really emphasize the results that you're going to produce for them. Now earlier I talked about a table of conversion, a schedule of conversion. This is what it looks like. In the left-hand column we have the dates of the presentation, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 of converting the customer. Then in the middle we have the activity. You're going to describe what will be done. And then in the right-hand column, who's responsible. Now the activity column defines the authority. And please notice that my first entry is authorize the implementation. So you have the date, which is the presentation date. The activity is authorize agreement, responsible for customer. Now this calendar of conversion idea really reduces any anxiety your customer may have from perception that you're going to do something that's magical. You're going to just lay out, here's how we work, here's what we do, and it helps them believe that you are the pro that you say you are. We're then going to present a summary of advantages, and we're going to show them why your approach to managing their IT infrastructure is far superior to whatever they currently are doing. If possible, and if it's the truth, show them how you're going to save money and or help them make money. And remember, price without value equals cost. So always highlight and identify the value that they'll get as a result of moving forward with you. So that's a quick snapshot. Again, send me an email and I will send every person that's attended today my 16 hours of sales training. Mark, back to you.
Fantastic stuff, Gil. That's a hell of an offer. I mean, the 16 hours of sales training and the templates and the work groups, I mean, that's a no-brainer for anybody who's serious about growing their business. Thank you for that.
My pleasure.
I'm sure these folks certainly appreciate that. Okay, let's see if I can move forward here. Excellent. So let me just kind of quickly summarize things with Network Detective. It gives you the ability to run non-invasive scans on your client and prospects networks very quickly and easily. And since the data collection is automated, you're not going to accidentally forget to gather key information like you might if you're doing it by hand or using a set of point tools. As you saw, you can customize and brand the reports with yours and your client's information and logos. So they're completely white labeled. And these reports are Word and Excel documents. So you can add, edit, delete information, pull it out into your own templates, do what you like with it. And the ability to populate configuration items in Autotask and ConnectWise for each client will save you a ton of time and reduce the chance of errors. And of course, the whole point of this is to close more business faster with existing clients as well. So definitely use a security module in those reports to develop and brand a security service. The results truly will be more satisfied, loyal clients, and I've never spoken to a service provider yet who wasn't looking for a way to increase the retention and stickiness to their customers, while at the same time creating a brand new and affordable for your customer recurring revenue stream. I really do think it'll help you find and close project revenue too, whether you're providing managed service or offering it a la carte. So I'd like to let you listen to a testimonial from one of our customers.
There's amazing value in this tool. You can sell it for a project for incremental income. You can bundle it into your existing service as a great way to add value, or you can offer client summary risks to just get your foot in the door. I've used it to get an extra $60,000 deal, and I sold it by itself for a few $1,000s. So all in all, it's definitely worth it.
So, Network Detective is comprised of 3 modules: the Network Assessment Module, the Security Assessment Module, and the Exchange Module, and soon to be a 4th as well. I mentioned before, the client risk report is your executive summary, followed by the detail that backs that up that you can help build your proposals around and use it to identify potential issues that you can sell against. So you've got the full assessment report, the Excel output that I showed you, which is all of the information from the full assessment report in a more manageable piece of information. You get the change diagram, site diagram, asset detail, which identifies things for each machine, and then, of course, our new XP migration report. Terrific for documenting the XP machines that are out there. It'll help you to determine which are potentially upgradable to 8.1, which you need to spend more time on, and helps you really sell those. The security module also contains the risk report, which is your executive summary, and then you've got a bunch of reports that really get into the details of security for your prospect or client. So external vulnerabilities, so what ports or protocols are open from the outside in to hackers. We then do an outbound report, which tests the security of your network from malware, bots, and spyware that could tunnel outbound on ports that aren't closed. Share permission reports I talked about, and then login failure and success by computer and by user. Terrific for really seeing what's going on and running this on a regular basis for your customers, as well as prospecting with the network report. The exchange module, similarly, a number of terrific summary and detailed level documents that are great for regular documentation of your prospect and client networks, great for putting together proposals for migrations and running that kind of in a before and after. For folks who are doing migrations, a terrific set of reports for you.